Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the House of Kayfabe. This is Adam Harris in the room with the other Steve Barker, and the legendary Matt Mullins. And we are in the House of Kayfabe on location here at the Bar None in West Virginia's second largest city. Gorgeous, beautiful Huntington, West Virginia. Thank you to Jason and everybody here at Bar None for joining us and allowing us to come and celebrate Austin 316 Day. Ladies and gentlemen, it's so good to be with you. Steve, Matt.
Hey,
let's get started with this House of Kayfabe convo.
This is the first time we've all been in the same room since WrestleCade.
That's true.
At the end of, what was it, fucking November last year?
When we had to fight over who got to sleep with Matt.
It's a big fight every year.
Spoiler, they both did.
We shared
all the beds together.
We shared.
Okay, so I want to come out real hot on this podcast. I've been thinking about this, and I've talked about it in our chat group before. Do you think that Stone Cold Steve Austin and the Attitude Era in general was so big, so influential? And I've thought about this because I have so many friends who are old school, they'll say like, oh, I loved wrestling in '98. Do you think that Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock and The Undertaker and HBK, everybody else you'd want to talk about from that era, were they so big that they cast such a shadow that no one can get there anymore? Ooh. And I'm thinking about that, like Roman Reigns is close, John Cena, yes. But did that do more damage than good in the long run?
In the long term.
What do you think, Matt?
What do you think, Matt?
Well, I think that it's much like the rest of life, we evolve. So what was to us in junior high or high school when the Attitude Era was really popping, that was all that was happening. Not just to wrestling fans. Everybody had an Austin 316 shirt. And I don't think you see that as much because I'm in the middle school. As a teacher now, I don't see many wrestling shirts. And I feel like in our era, everybody had a DX or Rock or Austin shirt. So I think that they did cast a pretty big shadow. But it was also different times. So what a time to live through, though.
I think we haven't seen everything from Roman Reigns yet. He's going to become a movie star. I think he's going to do much more, and we'll eventually get to that Rock status. John Cena is the closest thing to anything we've had to Stone Cold Steve Austin, but he's totally a family-friendly version of that, And the Attitude Era, for what it was an exciting time to be in professional wrestling, and no question it wouldn't have been the same without Steve Austin. And we've all talked about this with the biographies that are on A&E now. And when wrestling is really good, it's usually reminding us of those old days when Stone Cold was
that's what I'm talking
kicking
about.
the Authority and doing a Stone Cold Stunner, and we all are yearn for those. So if those of us of a certain age, for sure, I think it'll never be better than the Attitude Era.
Now, we always talk about Stone Cold and where he got to, and I don't know about you, but I know you for sure. You were far more aware of Steve Austin as a wrestler before what a lot of people who were just Attitude fans were aware. Tell us about your first experiences with stunning Steve Austin, blonde-haired, baby-face
Long
mark?
blonde hair. No, he was definitely not a baby face. Stunning Steve was an easy character to hate, especially if you're 9, 10 years old. He was a linchpin of the booking when they started WCW Saturday Night, because that was their new show. It had a different feel at 6:05 on Saturday nights, and he was the television champion. And they would work these time limit draws if you couldn't win the match in 15 minutes. And Stone Cold had so many great matches. And as a kid, I thought he was never going to lose that title. And that made even the biggest difference when he finally did, which I think it was to Ricky Steamboat back in the day. And then he had joined the Dangerous Alliance, which is one of my favorite periods of wrestling of all. And I thought that group was great, but it broke up for lots of reasons. It had Rick Rude, Larry Zbyszko, Arn Anderson, and Bobby Eaton. And so, again, Steve Austin was in that upper echelon of names before he was ever Stone Cold. And really one of my favorite times of wrestling, and never would have thought that he would go on to be basically the most popular wrestler of all time.
Do you know last year and the year before that, and I'm not for certain, but probably the year before that, the number one T-shirt. And this is what I was thinking about with that question I started the podcast out with. The Austin 316 T-shirt is still the biggest seller in the WWE.
Well, and that just goes to show what wrestling fans, are of a certain age. We all yearn for that stuff, and I think I wonder who the best-selling like modern wrestler is. But it's got to be like Reigns.
It's
got to
be Reigns.
Yeah.
Now, did you see Stone Cold during that WCW run, or do you remember? Because you're, of course, the resident ECW mark, and we'll talk about ECW later because we're going to get the proprietor of this fine establishment, and they're going to mark out about some Philadelphia hardcore days. Did you see Stone Cold when he was in ECW?
I did, and he cut that promo as talking about Eric Bischoff, and he was also Hulk Hogan, which I was.
Never seen that.
I was a Hulkamaniac, and so I was like, this motherfucker. And but that was an awesome time, and I knew Steve Austin from the Dangerous Alliance too, because I hated Paul Heyman so much. He was so hateable, and when Steve Austin was fired, he was also injured. That's when he came to ECW and cut some of those promos and never wrestled. I was
going to say, did he wrestle?
I don't think he wrestled.
I don't know the answer to that. I don't think so. I mean, but the only thing you see is those clips of him imitating Hulk Hogan, and
this is where the big boys come to play with each other.
And I don't know the story about how, like, if anybody saw that and said he should go to WWE, or
it's JR was the one that was trying to get him.
Has always been a champion of Steve Austin, yeah. And that's a good point too. That was part of why Austin got over back then, was probably because of JR on commentary. You know, if JR liked you enough, he could get you over, and he got Stone Cold over once the Attitude Era. Yeah, once the Attitude Era came. I think part of one of the reason remember that stuff so fondly is because of JR for sure. I was going to say something else just about his persona, because it's something that evolves over time. When he was Stunning Steve, he had the robe and was trying to be a little more like a Nature Boy character, but yet had these loud shorts that had kind of like the typical like 90s style, Back to the Future style shapes and colors.
Looking like Parker Lewis Can't Lose.
Sort of, or from like, Miami Vice almost, And then, but he would go on to be in the Hollywood Blondes with Brian Pillman, and would cut the hair, but yet had a totally different approach. They did the Hollywood Blondes thing with the camera action. Loved that tag team growing up. And again, I thought, man, nobody can beat these guys. I thought they were unstoppable. He had, then, of course, there was the run with, after that.
Real quick, though, just for the toy marks is...
Oh, yeah.
I definitely... The Galoob series were like, no articulation. They didn't move. They're just little statues. But I used the Brian Pillman, and I used Barry Windham as Stunning Steve.
I bet a lot of people did back in the day. I bet they did. That's a great point.
Cold didn't have
one.
Did
not have a WCW figure.
Was there, because of course we also on our channel we do a lot of merch as well, and these guys, and along with brother Derek, who's out in Beckley or wherever the fuck he lives, or the
MacArthur.
Fig Marks. Was there Stunning Steve Austin figs from that era?
No, they just recently came out with the first Stunning Steve as like a Mattel throwback figure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does it come with the robe?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay.
Was there a UK Galoob of Stunning Steve?
No, not of Stunning Steve.
Okay.
There's the Freebirds and
another.
Big Josh.
Oh, that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, I think I'm thinking of maybe the Michael P.S. Hayes and the Lex Luger. Yeah. The other thing I was going to say was after that TV title run and after the Hollywood Blondes, I think Stone Cold had a run with the U.S. title, if the timing is right.
Yeah, he definitely did.
And he had another long run and like legitimized that title, I think. And made it something to watch. But then, in some of my research for Austin 316 Day, I remembered that they famously had him lose, like in an instant, to Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Oh man, that's a burial, because that was back when. Do you all remember? And I don't know if this would have been the era Al might remember over there. Was this when Hacksaw was taping his fist up? Like
I don't know about that.
Was like that was his like. Unstoppable maneuver. He just put tape on his hands.
I'm pretty sure
like
this was the 3-point
cheating.
stands clothesline 1, 2, 3. I'm pretty sure.
Oh God!
Nice. He would spin the tape.
You were talking about them being in the Hollywood Blondes. That's how much you can. They didn't care to like destroy kayfabe back then, because like Stone Cold Steve Austin has a worse accent than I am, and they'd be like, "Yeah, I'm from Hollywood. I'm Stone Cold Steve. I'm Stunning Steve Austin."
And Pillman, famously from Cincinnati.
Yeah.
But they would say, now residing in Hollywood, California, of course. He takes new residence in Hollywood, California. And it was shortly after, I think, that loss to Duggan that would have probably prompted Austin Austin to figure out his options. Look at that contract. Say, where am I in my life after having been in debuted in 1990, and
Yeah, you're jobbing to Hacksaw Jim Duggan in WCW.
on pay-per-view, baby, on pay-per-view. And then, believe me, those old-timers don't like losing on TV. And again, I guess the ECW thing came shortly after that. And so I'm wondering, do you guys remember your first memory of Austin in the WWE?
It would have been right around, and I was in college at the time, so I was fucking broke, so I didn't get to watch pay-per-views because I didn't have anybody that was a wrestling fan or even on campus. But it was right around the what was it, the King of the Ring,
Right.
Because I definitely remember being like, oh sweet man, Jake the Snake's back, and he's got a positive attitude, and it's not scary. Jake the Snake.
Well, don't get ahead of us too far. What about you, Matt? What do you remember about Austin in
The
WWE?
Ringmaster.
Okay, there we
I
go.
don't remember the Ringmaster.
Yeah,
There we go.
because I love to hate the $1 Million Man, so I thought that was a perfect pairing. I loved the gimmick.
You love that belt, don't you?
I love the $1 Million Belt so much. I wanted it so bad growing up.
I think you were in the minority as far as liking the Ringmaster gimmick.
I did. I thought it was a perfect pairing. Ted was so hateable that no matter what, you were going to hate whoever he was with. And so I thought that was a great pairing. And I was weird about at the time because I was probably 16. I was 15, I guess, when the Austin 316 quote happened. And I was like, oh, man, this is weird. They're like sacrilegion.
You're from a good Christian raising.
Well, I went to a Catholic
Good
school.
Christian boy doesn't like that blasphemy.
Catholic school. I was weirded out about it at the time and being like, damn, wrestling, you're
Questioning,
going there. And then
making me question myself.
Then I was like, oh, I love it.
Question my convictions.
I love it.
I'm going to have to confess for every time I watch Saturday night or
He's
watch
no
Monday
prophet.
Night Raw.
So I changed from the Catholic Church to Monday Night Raw.
I remember, I don't know if it would have been his debut or just remember him walking out, and they had kind of built it up some with some promos, I think, but I was shocked when I finally realized, oh, that's freaking stunning Steve. The hair is gone. He's got the bald killer look, And, I thought his ring work was always good. I don't think anybody had any problem with that, but there was something about the Ringmaster thing that just did not connect, I think, with Austin and maybe with the universe as well, although Matt apparently thought it was great. And we had a new $1 Million champion. That's another thing. They brought him in, put the belt on him. That really made it mean something.
Right.
Even though a few years later, the $1 Million title might have seemed a little cheesier, but, they went with it for sure.
When he talks about that time of being the Ringmaster, he buries the shit out of it. He just really just glosses over it like it's a footnote.
Yeah.
But so many people remember, a shorter-haired, still blonde, looking like a baby face until he talked guy walking around with the $1 Million belt.
Yeah.
He always downplays that. Which, it's easy to downplay because he became the most popular wrestler of all time.
Well, that's true. Yeah, of course. And it makes for a good story, too, a good comeback story. Same with the ECW thing, how he was trying to get over. And that's when he finally was able to be himself. That's when we saw a glimpse of what would make Stone Cold Steve Austin great. What do you think? You want to do a little backup, a little promo for our match, our watch along?
Yeah, let's talk about what we're about to see.
Yeah.
So we're going to be watching WrestleMania 13, 1997. We're seeing not quite beat up your boss, Stone Cold Steve Austin, right? Mr. McMahon hasn't been created yet, and every time anyone thinks about Stone Cold Steve Austin, they think about beating up your boss. So this is an evolution of Stone Cold. This is a year after King of the Ring in '96.
That's right. So June of '96, he wins King of the Ring. Do you guys remember who he defeated to win the King of the Ring? He had 2 matches that night. We all remember who the last one was.
Jake the Snake.
Yep.
And was it Owen?
No. He had to go to the hospital to get stitches, remember? And he famously came back. This is one of the reasons people love Stone Cold so much. Al, do you remember who his first match was against at King of the Ring? Ooh, close. Good guess. It was Mark Marrow. Wild man, Mark Marrow, busted his lip open. Stone Cold goes to the hospital, gets stitched up, and comes back. You can see clearly why he would become such a baby face. And maybe it was. And so that was June of 96. January of 97, Shawn Michaels defeats Sid for the WWF Championship. So Shawn Michaels becomes the champion. And then Steve Austin, under much controversy, wins the Royal Rumble. Okay, so there was a brawl, and I just looked this up. It was between Mankind and Terry Funk, and they were brawling, and it distracted all the referees. That's when Bret Hart threw Stone Cold over the top rope, and Stone Cold realizes, oh, the referees are all tied up. I can get back into the ring. And so that by that point, Bret Hart has thrown over Diesel, thinks he's won the match. Stone Cold comes from behind, and as far as anybody else is concerned, wins the Royal Rumble. And so Bret Hart begins this history of having been screwed out of his opportunities. And so that's how the Royal Rumble went down. Stone Cold was supposed to fight in a four-way match that was going to end that controversy. But you guys may or may not remember, a few days before the Final Four in your house, Shawn Michaels lost his smile.
Oh, God, he did. Ugh.
That bastard.
A career-ending knee injury for the former Rocker and current WWF champion. And he gave that heartbreaking promo. Women in the audience were crying. I'm sure men were crying. We were verklempt at the idea of Shawn Michaels giving up the World Championship. So the Final Four match became for the WWF Championship at In Your House. That match was won by Bret Hart, and he would lose it the very next night on Monday Night Raw to Sid Vicious, thanks to Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Because at this time, we're not tweening yet. We maybe even talk about like that concept of tweener. And like
this is a lot of gray area here, definitely.
This is just straight heel Stone Cold.
That's right. That's right.
Just completely fucking the Canadian hero Bret Hart. So he wasn't that tweener cool heel thing yet. He was just straight old school bad guy.
And Bret did get a rematch against Sid, but he lost that match. It was a cage match because of The Undertaker. And The Undertaker wanted Sid to win because that's who his opponent was at WrestleMania. And so there was vested interest in who came out of that match as the world champion. Stone Cold wanted Bret Hart to win because he wanted their match at WrestleMania 13 to be for the world title. And so that's how you kind of end up with a double main event feel. Like these matches, all these guys had been in the title match contention. And so at WrestleMania 13, we're going to watch the most memorable match by far from WrestleMania 13, Bret Hart versus Stone Cold. No title on the line. And the main event, as we mentioned at WrestleMania 13, the go-home match of the night was The Undertaker defeating Psycho Sid at the end of WrestleMania 13. The streak wasn't quite known as the streak at that point, but I think it was number 6 for The Undertaker.
Even though Bret has good years after this, I think that there's a torch passed with the technical wrestling of Stone Cold in the ring. Like the in-ring performer at the time, people didn't know how good he was, but I mean, everybody knew how good Bret was. And you kind of see that torch gets passed, and the crowd shifts to Stone Cold completely.
It became cool, yeah.
When that blood is trickling down, baby.
And we're going to get to it. Oh, yeah, we're going to get to it. We're going to watch the famous match from WrestleMania 13, Bret Hart versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. Ken Shamrock, the special referee in the submission match. We're going to watch that in just a moment. We're going to get ready, and you can get your Peacock queued up to WrestleMania 13 and watch along with us. We're going to take a quick break and be back with WrestleMania 13 right here on the House of Kayfabe. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the House of Kayfabe here on YouTube. We are about to do our watch-along here of WrestleMania 13. Thank you for joining us. Be sure to like, subscribe. Leave us a comment. What's your favorite Stone Cold Steve Austin match? What's your favorite Steve Austin memory? We are celebrating 316 Day here at the Bar None. Thank you so much to Jason for the invite. Thanks to our bartender, Jasmine. You guys be sure to take care of Jasmine behind the bar. We are on the WWE Network where you've got it paused just before the match here. There's a crowd shot, some signs. Man, signs were a huge thing in the Attitude Era. And so we'll be getting our watch along here. And let's just do a 3, a 2, and a 1. Push play.
Were they calling it the Attitude Era at this point?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't think so because we see the WWF logo there. I don't think they had switched over because remember during the Attitude Era they said get the F out, so it was in full form and that's when they turned it into the crooked letters. So they weren't owning it, I don't think, at this point because this is the very beginning. I mean,
and WCW is winning the war right now.
Yeah, I would say so. And I think I heard, thanks to Wrestling with Regret, he said that this was the lowest pay-per-view buys of any WrestleMania to this point. So I bet that was a huge disappointment. Imagine if that happened today with the WWE trying to sell the company, and if they had had their worst selling WrestleMania this year.
It's worth noting too that this is Stone Cold pre neck break. You know, this is Stone Cold, who obviously has at least one of his knee braces on, but this is a relatively healthy Stone Cold.
That's right.
And you'll see the difference in his work. What's always interesting with him is he was known as, especially during like Stunning and the Ringmaster, that was the whole gimmick, was he was a great wrestler.
There he is. Bret Hart just walked out.
Oh,
if you're trying to sync it out, Bret Hart
such a
just
Bret
came
Hart
out
mark.
under the WrestleMania 13. The music hits, the crowd's going crazy.
But Stone Cold was a worse wrestler when he was the most famous wrestler of all time.
Definitely, his moveset was about 5.
He couldn't move. His neck had been fused, and both knees bad.
Bret Hart is definitely over still at this point. This is the Chicago crowd. Rosemont Horizon, March 23rd, 1997, I think. Did I write that down right? Yep, 23rd.
Smart crowd. This is a 90s smart crowd.
Definitely. The crowd is starting to get smarter by the day, with the internet coming in. And Steve Austin,
Yes.
oh, man. And Bret had been teasing this whole heel turn thing, but they're going to start brawling. There's not going to be a lot of technical masterpieces in this match. This one starts off as a brawl.
And of course, we have UFC legend Ken Shamrock, who is going to be the only person tough enough to take care of what this was as a blood feud, too. Like, you gave a good summation of where we're at here. Stone Cold screwing Bret Hart. I guess that was kind of a theme of Bret Hart towards
Definitely.
this era of WWF.
Definitely.
This blood feud and this extreme violence that we're going to see makes absolute sense. These are people who fucked one another over, and this is the only way we're going to get this out. We're not going to have any crisp headlocks.
Well, and that's what he just got a headlock, and you see where it got him. It got him shoved into the steel ring post. He went for a headlock on the outside. And we gripe a lot about nowadays, like, 30 seconds into the match, they're on the outside already. Well, this was a rare thing at this point. You didn't brawl to the outside in the first moments of the match, and he's taking... shot onto the barricade.
On the beanbag, as Taz would say.
I think Jesse Ventura would say he'd be singing soprano, gorilla.
I'm not much of a gaming nerd, but I'm pretty positive that this was the Raw is War era game, and this match was awesome to play. Because I had the original Nintendo for pretty much I only had any game system for the wrestling games. So this was definitely a match.
Crowd is not respecting Ken Shamrock, really. He's having a hard time.
This is before people knew that much about UFC.
I was going to say, he is not a known legend at this point. He is just breaking in. This is his first appearance on pay-per-view with the WWE, and a really creative way to bring him in, I think. He's not in a match. He's got an authoritative stance, though, and it's with two of the biggest names in the company, for sure. Right now, I bet he didn't think he was going to be doing this much crowd control.
No.
When he agreed, he's like, yeah, I'll put on the zebra stripes.
And what you said is worth saying again. This is bedlam out into the crowd.
Oh, man.
This is a Monday night or a Wednesday night now.
That's
every
right.
fucking week. And
Twice, 3 times during Dynamite this
yeah,
happens.
no shit. So this seems such a more heinous thing for them to be out in the crowd. Of course, we're in a I Quit match, so I'm pretty sure that's no rules, so we don't have to worry about a count out.
Yeah, submission.
Submission. Oh, that's right. It's not like that.
And that's another thing about Ken Shamrock is at this time period, nobody ever tapped out. This wasn't a thing. Now everybody taps out. They even say, you're a winner, buy a tap out. At this time, there was none of that. People would be patting the mat over and over and over again. They weren't tapping out.
UFC's helped WWE.
Is that an
wrestling
NWO
so
shirt?
much.
Look at that. Look at that.
Wow.
Oh wow!
They're in Shamrock's ear right now. Get him away from that shirt. Get him away from that shirt.
We went to AEW Dynamite. This was back before the podcast, and I had Cornette's shirt on, and one of the camera guys came by, and I was like, "Hey, put me on." He's like, "You're going to get me fired, dude."
Even the cameraman's smart in AEW.
So yeah, we're just seeing like straight up like what Matt
Look at
would-
this, and this
I
is
just-
not
I
even that
think
great
ECW
camera.
Brawl.
What if the guy was like, only if you cheer on Orange
Cassidy.
Cassidy, I'll put you on camera in that shirt.
And this is another thing I want to say is like for a second there, you couldn't even see the guys, and they would never let that happen today.
No.
Right.
It would be totally so scripted out that every single camera angle would be plotted out. And say what you want, but again, I know we just were saying about how we love the older stuff better. But it was more spontaneous then. You know, you got the feeling that nobody knew what was going to happen. Nowadays, everybody knows what's going to happen next, and every camera cut is completely. Look at this, Bret Hart off the barricade. Oh,
The
good
barricade,
grief!
the version of the second rope.
And again, you didn't see that from Bret Hart. This is the excellence of execution we're talking about here, and he just dove off the barricade.
Something that we didn't talk
What a
about
great-
when they were coming back through the crowd. Shamrock was getting people out of the way.
For sure.
Right.
He was legitimately moving humans with his gigantic arms.
Shamrock looks like $1 million too.
I mean, dude, he's
JR
on $1
is
million
selling
bucks
it.
of
JR is selling it.
Mexican vitamins.
Bret Hart just went into the steel stairs. He's struggling to get up. Bret Hart, Austin with the
Bird.
double birds, and comes off the apron
Of
with.
course, this is pre-performance
Insane blow.
performance policy, performance drug policies. Everyone looked great.
Oh yeah, they had a policy, all right. It's like you better look jacked when you show up on TV. Oh, Austin, that's a scary bump right there.
What was the
His leg could have got caught up in there, and
What was Vince's World Bodybuilding?
yeah, the WBF.
The WBF.
Yeah, and
Because and dude, Luger would have been here this time last year. Because that's why he was there.
oh, that's right. WrestleMania 9 is when the Narcissist showed up.
Narcissus.
Oh man, we're brawling. Bret Hart's going to get back in control here, trading back and forth. So,
like, it's something you think about, like Stone Cold, of course, becomes the babyface of all baby faces because tweeners don't exist. I don't care what anybody says. But he's wrestling the same exact way here
Yep.
as a heel
Yep.
as he did 3 years later against, The Rock.
stomp on the hand, brutal,
Oh, looks so good.
brutal. And here we go, an Irish whip, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our submission match. Bret Hart with the swinging neck breaker. Nice, very nice.
Bret Hart has some selective memory when he gives. He's kind of harsh on other competitors of his day, and specifically when he makes fun of like Kevin Nash and the 5 moves of doom. Bret Hart had some great hits too that always came.
Definitely, dude. Oh man, I bought the Bret Hart like 3-disc DVD, and I was like, I can't wait to watch this. And 4 hours later, I realized I just watched the same match 18 times.
And he specifically ripped Ric Flair for the same thing.
That's true. That's true. And nobody's more predictable than Bret Hart.
Well,
But I still loved it. I still loved it.
Hogan is more predictable.
Well, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Oh, I like this. This is classic stuff. You don't see this anymore. Charlotte does this still.
If Michael Cole was
The
here,
bounce
he would
off the
say,
bottom rope.
Classic Bret Hart.
He would say vintage.
Vintage.
Yes,
Blaster.
vintage.
Yeah, vintage. And look at Bret Hart, kind of. Maybe I'm looking at it with eyes that I know where this is going.
It's brutal on the knee.
He's being more heelish
Yep.
as this goes
Yep.
on.
Yeah, he's pinpointed that knee injury. He's going to exploit that.
So this is in the toy era. This is Jack Specific,
Okay.
bone crunching action.
I'm sitting up straight now.
You had the.
Matt's
you
talking
had-
about toys.
You had the Shamrock in the ref shirt that came out.
Oh.
Remember that?
Was this a 3-pack?
I believe so.
Insert photo of 3-pack here. Oh, he's just going
this
to work
is
on the knee.
classic
And
example
this is,
when God Emperor Cornette talks about take your time.
I was just going to say the same thing.
He in this last like 2-3 minutes, we've just seen a lot of attacking of his left leg.
Bret
and
Hart
taking
slows
his time
it down.
Doing it, yeah.
Slows it down.
It looks more brutal. It's like the reason
Ooh.
why Transformers the movie sucks because you
He hit
can't
his-
take anything in. Everything's going so fast. Oh, there you go.
Stunner.
Stunner.
Early stunner, no
And
kick.
so it
No
got a little
kick.
pop, but it wasn't even yet the stunner,
If
right?
if we stunnered someone right now, it would be a bigger pop. That is truly before Stone Cold was Stone Cold.
I
Steve
stunned
Austin.
3 middle schoolers before I
Oh,
came
no.
out.
in your new job, you have to stun people all the time.
Look at that cell job.
Oh, look at
he's
that.
so
You're right.
good.
Brilliant, brilliant.
Like I believe that his knee is fucked right now. It's beautiful.
I wanna
Honey, this is why wrestling's awesome.
This is awesome. This is a good match to see. Although, if you don't know what, we're just seeing such a different Bret Hart right now. Like this is just not him. Oh, here it
Heelish.
comes.
Oh, here. Oh,
This
I wonder
is
what's
like-
going to happen here, Adam Harris.
This is
now watch right here.
vintage
This
Bret
is-
Hart of this era. This is.
Because I've been listening to his.
Did you see him hit his head? He talks about that.
That's what I was about to say. I've been listening to his book, and later on, he would have the ref come over and catch him on
Yeah.
his way down, so he wouldn't have to take that big.
He would have the ref
concussive
like be
bump.
hanging out there, be like, no, 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 but then make sure he didn't do that again.
Right. look at that sell job. You know, it's so easy to remember, like Stone Cold Steve Austin, the badass of badasses. This man sells.
That's the thing is when you think of Flair, so many people talk about the signature sales, but he does it throughout the match, and Stone Cold does the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we kind of like came to love him selling, but then when he was over, he just had to whoop ass all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
But yet all he needed was those 5 moves. So he'd sell the whole match and then do the stomp a mud hole, stunner, and go back to the
Fez
shower.
press.
Here we
Yep.
go.
Oh. Shades of Macho Man.
Some ring
Randy
announcer just got a
Savage.
drink in his lap.
You know, when would you ever think that
up,
Bret
Frank.
Hart would?
Oh,
do
don't use
something-
that one. Don't use the event
Padding.
chair. The event chair with the photos on it.
Who would have ever thought that the Canadian hero HBK or fucking Bret Hart would have
go
ever
for
been
the
doing
chair.
a
Unbelievable.
Macho Man shit?
What has happened? What has become of you, Bret Hart?
Are we about to do?
What has become of you?
Is this
This
a
proves
callback?
he does not care about Steve Austin.
He is about to.
He wants to break his leg.
His leg.
Well,
Is this post Pillman leg?
That was going to be one of my trivia questions, but yeah, it was whose house did Stone Cold Steve Austin invade on that controversial 1996 Monday Night Raw?
That's something you're just not going to see
chair
anymore.
shot directly to
Unprotected
the skull
headshot, dude.
on Bret Hart, who should know better.
Is it when we see it now because we're so used to it being protected?
That was brutal.
Is it jarring still?
Yeah, it was jarring. Oh gosh,
Well, he has so much Vaseline in his hair that it in fact slides.
it slid right off there.
Petroleum jelly.
I would like to know what is actually in there. I mean, Bret's hair has this weird consistency that's yet to be defined by biology. Stone Cold with a little power slam there. That was a little out of his normal book here. Irish whip out of the corner.
I believe it's Canadian pork belly.
Ooh. Brett could take the turnbuckle.
Dude,
I mean, look at that, just a
always
turnbuckle.
Tried to make the turnbuckle the hardest hit.
And he hasn't
of
done
match.
he hasn't done the chest first one yet, right? Like we got to see
it's
that.
coming.
Snap suplex. Another move that Austin did throughout his career. If you watch
And
World
did
Class,
for most of that Kevin Owens match at WrestleMania. He did about 15.
when you're old,
Yeah.
when you're old, you got to just go with the suplex. Here
Look
we
at that.
go.
Stone Cold from
I smell a couple
from
birds.
Bret's heart. That's Bret's rope.
That's Brett's rope. Double bird. Oh, hits his move. Insult to injury, as you might say. Stone Cold is in charge. The crowd is firing up, too. I feel like they're slightly behind him.
Sharpshooter coming up.
JR is selling it.
No, I
The
thought he
hell of a
did.
fight.
I thought he did the figure 4 in this.
Brett would always tease it like that, too, though. Oh, come on.
Oh, look at this poor girl. She does not
You-
want to see the Canadian hero,
you
Brett. Look at that.
son of a bitch,
It's still
Steve
real to
Austin.
her, God damn it.
That's right. Oh, this is
White
not a
Russian
move we
white
see
feet.
enough of, and I guess they have to rename it, but it's
Look
the
at
side
that.
Russian.
Look at
Austin showing off. He watched a Ken Shamrock match or something.
reverse triangle choke or not choke. People don't
JR
realize,
doesn't even know what to call this.
No, not at all. Shamrock was already in the business. He had already done Japan at this point, and he had done a bunch of indies as well. So he wasn't completely green either.
It's a hair
That's
arm
what
bar.
they're seeing now.
Arm bar.
Armbar.
Armbar on the Hitman, Bret Hart.
Oh,
Stu.
no, Stu.
How have they gone this long into the match without the close-up of Stu? He's concerned.
I feel like the Hart family has had more ringside seats than anyone in the history of wrestling.
That's true. Them and Flair's family.
Yeah.
Flair's family is at ringside. Oh,
Is
putting
Bruce
the
over there?
Boston Crab onto Bret Hart, and he's just got to take it. I don't think a rope break would count in this, would it? In a submission match?
I think it is.
Hey, guys, we're watching WrestleMania 13.
Yeah.
There's only about 10 more minutes left, though, and then this will be back to a regular bar atmosphere, I promise.
We're just nerds.
It's okay to talk.
Welcome
You can
to
tell
it.
us your honest opinions.
Just to explain, this is like
rope
middle-aged
break
man.
does happen.
This
Yep,
is
rope
middle-aged
break.
man weeb shit. Just so you understand.
What's the in your house? Is it Spring Stampede?
Yeah.
Before this, it was
No,
called
the-
Final Four.
The one that's in Canada with
Oh, yes. Yeah. Calgary Stampede.
Calgary Stampede. They're TJ that's married to Natalia. He's in the ring with the family as a little kid, and it's awesome to go back and watch.
So cool. That's
an
one of the
awesome
best
in-your-house
pay-per-views
to
of
go-
all time.
Yeah.
Well, if you guys like watching these pay-per-views where we watch along with you, that'd be cool. Leave us a comment. Tell us what matches you'd like us to watch here on YouTube.
And you know, just now Stone Cold. And if you'll notice, everyone who tries to put the sharpshooter on Bret Hart, they always do it wrong.
I think
and
it's
of course,
required. I don't think you
HBK
would
did
let
it wrong.
them put it on.
Yeah, but HBK had so many somas in his system. And
Oh, back to the outside. Bret Hart goes. The crowd is fired up. Oh man, they are hating his ass right now.
And at this point, you know, Stone Cold was doing all kinds of dastardly heel shit.
And he just did that not to the hard cam. Also, another thing that would not have happened. He was just working the crowd right there. Oh, look out!
That would get you cut on NXT.
Oh, Hugo Chavez.
not the Spanish announce table. That never happens.
There's the King and Vince McMahon at ringside.
Oh man.
Oh, this.
Bret Hart is resorting to pure brawling tactics here on the outside.
Man, Shamrock.
Jerry Lawler, no Bret Hart fan.
Shamrock
Oh,
just
is this
yoked.
where the blade? Is this where the blade job
Yeah,
happened?
I think it just happened to him right now. Oh yeah, into the
There
thing.
it
Yep,
is.
there we
Okay,
go.
let's see. Well,
Oh,
I haven't
oh,
bladed.
he's making sure
But
it's good.
not
It's
the
pretty
blade,
good.
It's not the
pretty
blade that's
good.
going to happen.
It's pretty good.
It's a good one. It's a good one. He's got
Also, another thing we see now from John Moxley in every single match, but a big deal. We didn't see blood in wrestling in 1997.
Oh, that's perfect. Look at that.
Oh,
Good
tremendous.
swordsman. Excellent
Tremendous.
swordsman.
I want to put my microphone down and clap.
And here's the thing, man. You know, in WWE, when Sami Zayn got that beat down at SummerSlam, the only thing was missing is he should have been bleeding like a stuck pig. Because sometimes you need blood. You know,
Sometimes you
AEW
do.
does
I
it
don't
too
know.
much. But WWE, about 2 or 3 times a year, they need some blood. Dude, just give them blood caplets at this point.
Oh, good camera shot. Again, that wasn't planned. They found it, went to it, cut to it. Like,
Yep.
ooh, yeah, I like that. Go to it.
Matt, can you tell how fewer cuts that we're watching as to like
Oh, it's
now?
Oh, it's insane.
It's 17 cuts in like a
Right.
30-second period.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you're getting. I think that's part of what Adam was talking about too. Is the spontaneity of, like, you get lost in the cameras here, where there's not so many cuts, and
You can take it in.
The producing is not as polished, but I think that you like it more.
If you watch AEW, and I watched actually last night on AEW that 6-man tag match between, it was a 3-way 6-man tag match. That was an incredibly well shot match, you know what I mean? But they had to work that out. It was cinematic, and every entrance for the Young Bucks and those guys is cinematic. But if you count seconds between cuts, it'll drive you crazy. It's like counting the seconds between laughs on Big Bang Theory. There's one every 3 seconds.
Bret Hart from Bret's rope again.
And here we go. Yeah, Bret took his rope back just now. And all that to say, like, look how long look, he's staying with the same shot here. Same shot, same shot, same shot. The camera's just going left to right, a little bit in and a little bit out. Here we go, second cut, That was probably like 15 seconds. You would never get that on AEW right now.
Dude, Stone Cold Steve is just selling like Ricky Morton, dude. And and what it is, it really is like Southern wrestling sell, because that's
we
where it
go.
came
Here
from.
it comes. Here it comes.
Left leg
comes.
under. He's going to fight it, though. Stone
I was
Cold.
going to say, this isn't the
This
one.
is he knows what happens if he
isn't
gets
the
the
one.
sharpshooter. He knows. And he's going to do whatever it takes to get out of it. The eye rake this time.
But you can see how, I mean, he's really dug into that blade job.
Oh, yeah. One knee brace.
That is.
As Steve mentioned earlier, Stone Cold is not completely immobile at this point. He's still a worker.
He's
Still fiery. Can still go.
Got that
And selling his
gusher
ass
going.
off. Yeah,
That's a
he's bleeding right
gusher.
now.
I mean, how many times have they used that Stone Cold face with blood dripping in his teeth as,
it's
an open?
It's a top 10 moment,
Oh, for
an
sure.
image. It's that. It's
Yeah.
Mankind coming off.
It's
the
used in
stage.
promos to this day. It might
Warrior.
even be in the open of
Warrior
Raw. I'm
and
not even
Hogan.
sure. Probably not with the blood.
Warrior Hogan, Andre.
This is March Mania. We got to just watch this match every year on this day
Fuck yeah.
and just appreciate it. Or find another Austin match to watch next year. I would love to go back and watch some of those, even though he wasn't 316 back then, but I would love to watch some of those WCW matches with Barry Windham and with Ricky Steamboat, with the Z-Man.
Oh my God, Tom Zink.
Oh, here it comes.
There
There
it
it is. The chest first buckle.
Man.
Vintage Bret Hart.
Hits it so
One of his
hard.
most memorable moves was a defensive, like he was taking the move. He was taking the offense. Oh, here we go.
This is an
He's
early
stomping a mud
version of a mud hole being stomped.
It
A
is.
Mania mud hole.
Double
bird.
birds. Oh my
What's our
goodness!
bird count? What's our
At this
bird count?
time in
Oh gosh, that was at
1990
least 3.
In 1997, how many fucking middle schoolers were sent home for throwing the double bird to the teacher?
True story is I had the Austin shirt that had the middle finger on the back. I think it was probably a bootleg, but I had.
You couldn't afford no.
I was in junior high.
real merchandise?
And had they put duct tape over it.
Oh, did they give you an opportunity to turn it inside out?
No.
I remember kids walking around with their ICP shirts inside out.
The shop teacher put a piece of duct tape
Wow.
on my
There
shirt.
it is.
Like Matt Mullins, report to the shop teacher's room
Did anyone notice
for
when
wardrobe adjustment.
when they took that bump off the top rope, how fucking stiff that mat is?
They went
Oh,
thud.
WWE's mat at this point.
Thud.
This is before McMahon started wrestling, and when McMahon started wrestling, they made the mat softer. That's a shoe.
He's like, boys,
this
this
How have y'all been doing this for 30 years?
Let's see if they do another big bounce move off the mat and just see how stiff that mat is.
I think that was probably as high up as they're going to go. The rest of this is going to be on the ground, and with
We would
this
never see this
extension
now.
cord.
We would never see this.
That's true. They don't like around the neck stuff. Although they just tapped out, what's his name? Wardlow, right? Hung him, and he
well,
tapped out.
AEW did. I don't know about.
All right, he's talking Stone
like,
Cold,
"Goddamn,
feeding him a
pal,
little bit.
you know,
Oh,
hurt
no.
Oh no!
Not again. Oh.
I keep
With
calling
the
him
bell,
HBK.
Bret Hart, electrical rope around his neck.
And Bret
Jeez.
Hart
Look away.
goes to the bell. Now I'm wondering if he's trying to open himself up more here, right here. We didn't see it.
Well, Bret Hart was hitting him with those shoot punches too. Once he's bleeding, he's like, "Oh yeah,"
it up.
and that was the old school worker thing. Was like you would jab somebody in their wound,
I don't
open
think
it up.
this is it either.
I don't
'cause
know.
think he's
Here we go.
bleeding enough. Is this
Watch-
it?
Watch when he
shaking
pushes
his
up.
head,
Pushes
shaking
up
his
right
head.
here.
He pushes up one time,
This
and then I
moment
think there's
right-
another one.
This is the big.
It
payoff.
takes him a minute. And now this part probably was planned, but they probably knew. Yeah, they had to know it was coming. They had to know it was coming.
Right
Steve
there,
Austin.
right there. Like grips in the
Oh,
teeth. Woo, baby.
running down the cheeks, into the mouth, from the
There is
eyes.
a generation of young men who can bond over that fucking picture right there. That right there is like that could be Shibboleth for somebody.
There it is, baby.
There it is.
Oh,
Just
he's going.
gushing.
Slowly dying out. Steve Austin. What a performance. If you want to give Jimmy Uso an Emmy, let's hand an Emmy to Stone Cold, baby.
Now see right there, that is technically a tap out now.
Exactly,
But that's not a
exactly.
thing back then.
Oh, yes. One more.
There
One
it
more.
is, just one
Here it comes.
more.
Here it comes.
There it is. Right
Boom.
there. That's the big one.
The teeth. Man. I guess you're right. Sammy, you know that match should have had some blood in it, but I don't
told
think
you
they
that.
need
Don't
it.
think
I don't
that
think
was
they
the
need it.
one.
I don't think they
We've
need
got
it.
more to go. I don't think. Maybe
He's
it
still
is.
fighting. He's almost
Okay.
knocked Bret Hart over. He's still fighting.
There
we
it
go.
is.
Another one. Another one. They're like, tell him to hold in one more time. One more time.
We didn't get it good enough.
Sorry, I keep taking us out of this. Nobody loves kayfabe more than me, but I keep
It's
talking
true.
about the camera angles.
Kayfabe, brother.
Oh, it's happening. Stone, even Brett, starting to get exhausted. He's shaking the head, putting more pressure by shaking the head, going through the spinal column into the hips, leaning back on the.
That's it.
Shamrock can't let it go on.
That's it, Stone
There was the
Cold.
bell.
Passes out from the pain. That is a fucking masterpiece.
That's why we watch
That is
wrestling.
masterpiece theater.
It's not over. It's not over. We got to see it here because this is another great moment that.
Does he give it? Does he put more heat on him after?
We
this?
haven't even said the word double turn yet, but I mean, this is defined. I mean, this is like what most people, this is why people study this, is because Stone Cold now fully in the favor of the fans. He did not submit. He held on until he fully passed out from loss of blood and the pain from the sharpshooter.
That's how you turn.
And Bret Hart's celebrating. Bret Hart's celebrating. Some fans are cheering. Yeah, you see, he's got a good crowd behind him still, but
But you used a chair, Brett.
the real sportsman, Bret Hart, would take his bow. He's going to
Actually-
pose on the ropes and go back to the locker room.
White meat.
But this Bret has been screwed.
White meat. Bret Hart 2
Over.
years ago would have been over there like helping him up.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. Great point. Great point. Try to get him up for a handshake.
Yeah, good match, buddy.
Stu and Helen over the moon.
You were always our favorite, Brett.
Not a dry seat in Helen's pants. She wet herself with this.
there
Oh,
it
now,
is.
and here we go. Brett has had enough.
Full
he is
heel.
not happy
this
with
is-
just the win.
This is not how good guys act.
And Shamrock just put his hands on Brett gently. He said, "Hey, man, look, the match is over. Hey, the match is over.
Uh-oh.
But I think you need a suplex."
Yeah. Ooh, I don't think Brett liked him getting dropped like that because he dropped him on his side. I think he was like, "Hey, man, you know."
But it also looked kind of legit, though, right? Like it looked
did.
like a legit MMA throw.
Yeah.
And Shamrock's bowing up right now. He's ready. He wants to see it. You want some, Bret Hart? You just wrestled 30 minutes. I can take you, I bet. And Brett powders like a heel. Like a heel. He doesn't need this.
These Americans are ingrates. They don't understand that I'm a Canadian hero.
And this not only was some of the best match, but it led to some of the best booking. You know, Brett turning heel, restarting the Hart Foundation, reuniting with his brother Owen and the Hart Foundation, Jim Neidhart, Davey Boy Smith. Look at that. Bret Hart just
flipping the bird. The Canadian hero.
That was like the fourth or fifth bird.
Our bird counts high.
How could you, Bret Hart? And that's what's great is there's kids right now watching this at that time in 97.
But you
14, 15-year-olds kids like, man.
They don't know what that is.
I can't believe that happened.
We've talked about it a few times on the podcast, but my mom's earliest memory of pro wrestling is that her great-grandmother, which was named Parthenie Brown, would sit in Wyoming County, West Virginia on Saturday nights in her lazy boy chair with a dip of snuff in her lip and watch pro wrestling and pull the arms up on her chair. She would get so excited. And years later, to generational pull, a 15-year-old me or a 13-year-old me here is doing the exact same thing. You know, didn't have a dip of snuff in my lip, but I probably had a fun dip stick. Really into this.
Or some big league chew.
Big league chew, perhaps.
No,
well,
we
and
didn't.
that's true. And Parthenie, if she'd have been around, man, she would have popped for this
And
match.
this is the Parthenie Brown of WrestleMania 13, no doubt.
And
No
also,
doubt.
they were able to let Stone Cold get some of his heat back because
Yep.
he just gave the stunner to whichever Hebner that was.
Oh, no, I don't think it was a Hebner.
I don't think- was that not a
shoot,
Hebner?
I had it for a second, but I forgot it. It was, leave it in the comments. The marks are going to leave us some
Oh, for
comments on
sure.
this. And Stone Cold is stumbling and bumbling, but he's up. You know, he's walking on his own accord after the submission match against the excellence of execution. Man, oh man, what a match.
The hero people didn't know they wanted.
That's right. That's right. And soon, you know, and it was Brett who was feuding with Vince McMahon at this point. And it would go on to be Austin who started the greatest feud and the greatest heel of all time with Vince McMahon. This has been our watch-along of WrestleMania 13. That was really fun. Thanks you to the Bar
Yes,
None.
thank you, Jason.
Thanks, Jason, for inviting us. Thanks to everybody coming out here to the House of Kayfabe. I'm Adam Harris, joined by Matt Mullins and the other Steve Barker. We're happy to be with you here on the House of Kayfabe. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
Thank you.